The weather is about to change a lot across the United States, where we are going to be seeing much warmer weather return to much of the United States, but there will also be another big cold blast sometime next week, and another large storm is on the horizon that will bring the potential for maybe even some severe weather and also the threat for some snowfall. So in today's forecast, we're going to break down exactly what you need to know about the weather that'll be impacting the United States over the next 7 to 10 days, and we'll begin with what's happening across the country this morning, and we'll begin with the Northeast, which is where we had a mid-latitude cyclone move across New England yesterday. This dumped several inches of snowfall to areas from Michigan all the way back through New York, New Hampshire, and Maine, where some areas even picked up as much as a foot of snow. That has now moved out, and the only thing that's left over is a little bit of lake effect snow that's back over near Lake Erie and as well as Lake Ontario. A lot of that will be winding down though later today. There's also a little clipper system moving out of Canada right now that could bring some light snow showers to areas in the upper Midwest throughout the morning, so just something to keep a close eye on there. Elsewhere though, things are really calm for most of the country. The only other little thing that's happening is that we've had some moisture coming out of the Pacific Ocean. This doesn't look very impressive right now, but this will actually be what fuels our next large storm next week, and we'll be talking more about that large storm here in just a couple of minutes. Now, before you go outside today, it is feeling very cold across much of the country, at least this morning. We have wind chills across the entire country for the most part in the teens or single digits. Unfortunately, areas like North and South Carolina that were impacted by Hurricane Helene, which many people are still without proper shelter, those areas are currently dealing with wind chills in the teens, and there have been records broken this morning. Observed temperatures that are in the teens this morning back over in North and South Carolina, so not a good situation there. The good news though is as we eventually go into the weekend and early next week, there will be some improvement when it comes to the temperatures across those regions. So right now we have this large cold air mass that has moved across the Northeast. That is from that mid-latitude cyclone. As we go into the weekend, that is going to start to move out, and we are going to eventually see warmer than average temperatures returning to much of the United States as we go into Sunday and as well as Monday. However, this is likely not going to last long because we are going to see another trough developing, which is eventually going to bring the potential, I think, for two different things: a lot of rain and severe weather potential, and then also the potential for some snowfall as we go into the early to mid portion of next week. And look at what happens if we do end up seeing this big trough. We are also going to see another shot of cold air across the Midwest, Ohio Valley, and as well as the East Coast eventually sometime around the middle and end of next week. So definitely looks like we are going to continue with this active weather pattern as we get closer to the middle of December. So the actual temperatures near the surface, you'll notice that cold air mass will eventually start to move out of the United States by Saturday. Above average temperatures returning to much of the country as we go into Sunday, including parts of the west coast of the United States, which, by the way, areas like California were under a tsunami warning yesterday. If you didn't already hear that, obviously there was no tsunami. You would have probably heard about it otherwise, but there were tsunami warnings over there yesterday because of an earthquake that happened offshore, so something interesting there. As we go into Monday into Tuesday, that warmer than average weather will continue across the Ohio Valley and Northeast. Eventually, cold and potentially Arctic air will move out of Canada from a low pressure system just north of the Great Lakes, and this will really be felt as we go into Tuesday and Wednesday of next week, and eventually by Thursday into Friday, this moves into the Northeast. The good news about this system, which will likely bring again some snow and maybe even some severe weather, it's going to be pretty quick moving. This Arctic air is not going to be sitting around for several days. It'll probably last no longer than 48 hours or so. Now let's talk more about what's upcoming over the next 7 days in terms of snowfall, rain, and even potentially some severe weather. Beginning with the next few days, going into Saturday, we are going to have yet again another clipper system moving across parts of Canada and the upper Midwest. So some light snowfall will be falling Saturday morning back over in the upper Michigan Peninsula. And as we go into Saturday afternoon and evening, this is actually going to turn into a little winter weather event back over in the Northeast, where a few inches of snowfall will be possible. So enjoy some more snow if you don't already have enough back over in New England. Eventually, as we go into Sunday and Monday, that clears out, and eventually we are watching for a big blob of rain and perhaps even some severe weather to occur back over in the lower Mississippi Valley and Ohio Valley early Monday morning. A winter storm will form back over in Canada, and it will be kind of flirting with the Canadian and United States border as we go into Monday morning. Eventually, as we go into Tuesday, that's where things do become a little bit more uncertain, but the GFS model right now does not really have an intense trough. It's really just a disorganized area with moisture down here near the Gulf Coast and then some snow back over near the Great Lakes region. But I think what's going to happen is that we are eventually going to see these connect kind of into one big blob of showers and thunderstorms and also snow snow sometime around Tuesday or Wednesday of next week, and you'll see how that kind of progresses. As we go into Tuesday into Wednesday, this eventually becomes kind of this large storm with maybe some severe weather in the southeast, cold air advection moving in behind this, bringing the potential for, again, an Arctic blast around Tuesday or Wednesday, and then even maybe some snowfall and a winter storm potential on the west and north side of this trough as we go into Tuesday and as well as into Wednesday. But exactly where snow falls and also if there will be any severe weather does remain uncertain, but they are definitely possibilities. I think if we see any severe weather, it'll be confined here to the Dixie Alley near the lower Mississippi Valley and the Gulf Coast, and then any sort of winter weather or winter storm potential would likely be somewhere in the Midwest or Ohio Valley, maybe even into the Northeast. But again, it's a little bit uncertain since we're still several days out, so stay tuned and make sure you're subscribed to the channel. We'll continue to keep you posted with the latest on this particular storm, as I do think there is definitely going to be some concern. Now, in terms of severe weather, as I mentioned before, it is still a little uncertain, but I do think Monday into Tuesday, we'll have to watch the lower Mississippi Valley in southeast Texas and Louisiana for some isolated severe storms. We might see something a little bit more organized sometime Tuesday night or Wednesday night in the Dixie Alley, but again, still we're several days out and the details on this trough do remain a little bit uncertain. One thing that's a little bit more certain, though, is that we're going to be dealing with some snowfall in the Northeast. We will have this Clipper system moving through Saturday night into Sunday morning. Plenty of snowfall going to be falling across New York, Pennsylvania, maybe even northern New Jersey, back into parts of Connecticut, Rhode Island, and eventually into Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine as we go into Sunday morning. Notice how there will be a potential for some moderate to heavy snowfall on the east side of this trough, so definitely some good snow going to be coming out of this. I think a lot of it will be wet snow, so it will probably not accumulate very quickly. Nonetheless, there will be a potential for snowfall. It's going to be a pretty quick moving system, so only expect maybe 12 hours, maybe 18 hours of snow at most. In terms of total snowfall accumulation, this is a pretty early estimate, but at this point, we are expecting a widespread 2 to 4 inches of snow for most of northern New England, lower amounts near the coastline, and then also back over in upstate New York. That is the one spot that will probably end up beating everybody out when it comes to total snowfall accumulation. Around 5 to 10 inches or so would be my current preliminary forecast for that area. And then if you're wondering if any other areas are going to be seeing snowfall over the next 7 to 10 days across the country, well, there will be some back over in the Pacific Northwest and the Rocky Mountains. Overall, this is pretty typical for this time of the year. Elsewhere, not really seeing much snow in the forecast. The GFS model has a small little bit of snow back over in Missouri and Illinois as we go into Monday into Tuesday. Again, not really sure if this is going to happen yet. There is a potential for some sort of winter weather event sometime during the middle or end of next week, but again, the exact details are still relatively uncertain. Aside from that, that's it for today's forecast. A shorter forecast than we've usually had. Not really a whole lot of weather happening other than this large storm we'll be watching for next week. If you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe down below. Also, this is the longest streak that we've had this entire year without being live. Over 32 days now without being live on this channel. There will probably be a live stream, I think, before the end of the year. Exactly what we're covering is uncertain, but I do think severe weather or a winter storm are going to be on the horizon right before or around Christmas. And speaking of Christmas, if you want a perfect gift for a loved one, you can get one at shopmaxvelocity.net. We have our Happy Holidays collection, Flying Trampoline merch, Drunknado merch, and our Max Velocity collection, all available at shopmaxvelocity.net. The link is in the description as well. If you want this, any sort of merch delivered before Christmas, you need to make sure you order by December 10th in the United States or in Europe. And as always, thank you so much for watching. Make sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe if you've not already.